Hello, my name is Debbie Reynolds. They call me the Data Diva. Today I want to talk about the GDPR fine for WhatsApp in 2021. So in December of 2018, the Irish Data Protection Authority started an investigation related to WhatsApp, which is owned by Facebook. And this investigation was narrowly focused to look at transparency and how WhatsApp or how Facebook handles transparency with users and non-users. So a decision was made this year in 2021 about this particular case in which they issued a fine to WhatsApp for $267 million. So this was the first big, the largest GDPR fine thus far that has been made by the EU. Previously, I think the first fine was for Twitter, which was like $500,000. So this is significantly more than $500,000. And this is kind of the first, full case has gone this far in terms of how the EU is handling GDPR. So this took, around, 3 years to do. And actually cases that were going through related to the previous privacy directive took around the same time. 2.5, 3 years, 3.5 years. So I think time-wise, it's probably around the same amount of time. I'm not sure if it's faster. But this was also a test that people thought was part of the sort of one-stop shop and the coordination that happened not only with the lead regulator in this case, which is Ireland, but also the coordination with the member states and also the EDPB board that made a recommendation to actually increase the fine. So initially the fine was going to be $50 million, but it was raised to $267 million. So again, this is a significant fine. Thus far, people have been watching this really closely. It's really interesting in terms of the way that they looked at transparency and the rights or transparency as it relates to users and non-users of the application. So a non-user, and this is very different in the US, where let's say if you have an app that asks you to share your contacts, those contacts would be considered non-users. So part of this ruling looked at how data was handled or how transparency was handled with users and non-users. So in the US it's a bit different, where a non-user wouldn't have the same rights. They would have greatly diminished rights because our privacy laws are consumer privacy laws, as opposed to in the EU, their privacy laws are related to humans. So right now, the way that this case stands, the Irish regulators expect that WhatsApp will take up to 3 months to make changes to the way that their application handles data. And also WhatsApp or Facebook has appealed this decision. So I think it'll be still many years to see what will happen, whether this fine will be reduced or not, whether in this appeals process it'll get, reduced or changed in some way. But I also think if I do a juxtaposition between the US and the EU, previous fines, not necessarily even for Facebook, that have happened with a lot of tech companies didn't really have really strong requirements about changes that had to be made afterwards. So this will be interesting to see how this plays out. And this has been a highly scrutinized app and acquisition over the years. So this is interesting. This is it's still a ways to go to see how this is finally handled, but I think that people may expect that there'll probably be a lot more of these types of rulings starting to come out now that this particular one has reached this state. That's it. Thank you.